Hi, welcome to Creed's Cost Management Workshop. I'm Andy, I'm our care specialist.
I'm Robert Owen, the Executive Business Development Chef.
We all know that there are severe cost challenges going on within the food industry at the moment, and specifically within care. So we're here to help demonstrate some hints and tips live for you. We're all aware of the economic challenges there are within the UK. So not only have we faced Brexit, not only have we faced COVID, but we've also had the Eastern European war in order to contend with. So within that, there's been a startling impact and startling statistics that have come out of this. So there's a few that we've just looked to talk through today for you. So we have occupancy within care homes down by 8%. So the ONS has declared this statistic this year. Then we can look at vacancies within the workforce within care. That's actually 11% of vacancies are not filled at the moment. This has come from Skills for Care. This was only earlier on this month in October. Then Professor Martin Green, he issued a startling statement around energy. So this has gone up 683%. It's really hard to look to contend with this. You know, there's enough to be concerned about, let alone thinking then about the food provision within your care homes. And this is a must for all care providers. So with a multitude of high impact world events, this has been ever increasing in regards to food supply and food pricing. That is why as a food service provider that look to partner with your business, we need to make sure that we're helping you address these challenges and to create solutions with you. So this is what we're looking to cover off for you today. We know a large part of this is down to staffing, but what we're going to do, we're going to look to push that to side. I want to concentrate on 4 really key areas for you. So the 4 areas that we want to cover for you today are operations. So operations don't mean just what's going on inside the kitchen, it also means what's going on outside of the kitchen, and those that fall in line with the whole catering within your care home. Menus and recipes, again, these are things that we can influence ourselves. So what's going on the menu, what's going into the recipes and being delivered. Then products. So we're going to look at what products for you. So we might look at seasonality that's coming into place, or perhaps some volatile products in regards to pricing and sourcing. That there's challenges there in the market. And then lastly, we're going to go to what's in your store cupboard. So we're going to talk about stock and waste management as well. So these are all things that we can actually do as from tomorrow, implement change and implement an impact then around these cost challenges. Okay, so moving on to operations. So this affects every single department within a care home, and everyone needs to be joined up in order to improve this. So this could be management staff, it could be support staff, carers, and the people in the kitchen. So we've broken it down, so we're going to look at 4 areas. So we're going to look at daily, weekly, monthly, and also quarterly. And there'll be some useful hints and tips then you can look to take away and look to implement within your home to improve your costs. First of all, what I want to do, I want to talk about daily. So too many times we've seen it where we're just having people within care homes and customers that we have that will just make up any amount of food that they wish. But actually what we should be doing, we should be looking about how we can actually do food that's made to order. An example of this is we all know that things like breakfast take an awful long time. So then in order to save time, we'll just cook off food for everybody. Actually, why don't we take a step back and think what expensive items, bacon and sausages, we could batch cook those off, we can label them, we can put them in the fridge, and then we can take those out, ensuring then that we only have those for the appetites that are required on that specific day for the residents. If we're then looking at weekly, so are we actually taking a stock take? And also, what does a stock take mean? You know, are we ordering only what we need and not what we ordered last week? Are we making sure that we're checking the best before on the products as well to make sure nothing's going to waste? Then as we move into more things like monthly, so what's really key within a food being consumed is it liked and isn't it liked? So are you sitting down with your residents and are you embracing them with what's going on to their plate and what's going on to the menu? So we need to make sure that we understand our residents. Also, we need to make sure then, kind of analytically, have we got a budget and are we sticking to that budget? And is that budget realistic? In order to do that, we need some tools for that. So you need to have some sort of reporting measure that the kitchen will liaise with an owner outside of the kitchen, which could be the manager or could be someone in the office, to make sure then that we're hitting that or we're challenging that budget. Then, if we move down and we're looking then more on a quarterly basis, this is where you need to be aiding and working with your food supplier. You can work with them on many different things, so it could be project related in order to drive your costs down. Examples of that is if you've got too many deliveries, can you reduce it? So through reducing the cost for your food wholesaler, then they can look to pass a cost saving on to you through the food. That is just an example, but engage, work together and see what you can do combined. Obviously, product switches may come into a quarterly thing you might want to do as an activity for your residents as well. And then what kind of doesn't fall into this is kind of the ad hoc things that might happen. So what you might want to do is, or what you should know, is when you're seasonalising your menus, are then you providing those budgetary requirements to what you're sticking to? So it could be seasonality. So are your budgets going to change around that? Then seasonally around Christmas, we know there's going to be an uplift in costs. In January, there's going to be a decrease in cost with what we've got left over from the fridge and freezer. So in this next part, we're going to look to cover off menus and recipes. So there's some elements within this that we're going to cover for you with some amazing hints and tips. So first and foremost, we would always look to recommend a 3-week menu. And there's many reasons for this. Obviously, you'd have a couple of choices on the menu. So really, if you were a resident, you wouldn't have to have the same thing for 6 weeks. Then if you seasonalise that, there really is enough choice for residents to have great food and great choice. The reason why we'd recommend a 3-week menu is because it's easier to create those seasonal menus and to move them. And really importantly now, when we're talking around cost challenges within the sector, you'll be creating these dishes more often. You'll be understanding the wastage from these dishes. You'll be understanding the likes and dislikes of the menu as well with your residents to really hone down that wastage. You're using less products for a 3-week menu as well. So you've got less on shelves, you've got less wastage going on. And most importantly, another output from this is your chefs, your cooks, the people within your home are cooking it more often, so quality is going to go up as well. So just fundamentally, it's the best way in order to look to move forward with your catering to tackle this. So what we wanted to do is to look to share what we've produced. So we've produced a 3-week menu, we've produced recipes, but what I want to do now, I want to pass you over to Rob in our kitchen, just to look to bring to life then just elements of this.
Thanks for that, Andy. I just want to talk to you now a bit about our fantastic 3-week menu cycle available to you at Creed Food Service. So we have designed the menu cycle with nutritional values in mind, variety, and maximising that flavour profile. We've worked really hard on it, hoping to give your residents variety throughout the time and some really good flavours and textures using cost-effective and fantastic set of ingredients. An example of one of those dishes I've made up today is our butternut squash and pea risotto, served with garlic bread if you choose. I've chosen the butternut squash because at the moment it's autumnal, the squash is bang in season, it gives you fantastic flavours, it's at its very best, and it's also cost effective, so you're not buying those products out of season, therefore having to pay that bit of a premium for it. The butternut squash, I've roasted some off to give you some texture on the top. We've crisped up some sage leaves again for that extra flavour burst, really maximising it for your residents, giving them a really enjoyable experience at lunch or dinner time. The risotto is just super easy to make. You can make it in big batches and really delivers on flavour. The fact that there's no protein on it, which can at the moment really send some of those costs soaring, is again an added bonus. Not saying that we're going to be doing it every day of the week, but sometimes just to take the protein off is A, fantastic for that digestion, B, highly nutritious, and just really delivers and packs that flavour in.
Thanks, Rob. Now what we're going to do, we're going to talk about products. So we all have hundreds of products on our buying list. So we need to make sure that we've only got access to those that we need, and then we're looking at those and making sure they're all fit for purpose. So pricing is very volatile, so we need to make sure then that using things like our Creed commodity report, we can make sure that we're going to be using the right products moving forward so they're at the right price point for you. Then we might have a look at things like seasonality. If things are in season, they're going to be at the best quality, but but also they're going to be at the best price as well. So use things like our seasonal calendar. Then, when we're considering products or changing products, we need to make sure that they are going to be multi-use products. So if you have certain allergens, if you have certain likes and dislikes, perhaps look at one product rather than 5 or 6 for things like maybe gluten-free. So look for a gluten-free gravy. Then, when we are perhaps then considering switching and saving, perhaps from a brand to a non-brand, look to work with Creed, your wholesaler, to make sure then that you've got the right products that are kind of cost efficient for you, but also so the quality's right as well. What I want to do, I want to pass you over to Rob, so he's got now some great ideas, looking at products rather than pre-prepared dishes.
Another top tip in this cost management workshop is to take a step back and look at what you're either making from scratch or buying pre-made, ready to bake off. We've taken this example today of the simple sausage roll, if you buy it in or do you make from scratch. So if you buy it in, quick, easy to deliver, simply cook in the oven, make from scratch, a little bit more labour, however offers you loads of flexibility in flavours, looks fantastic, tastes delicious, and overall will be a cheaper alternative for your menu. That's just an example of how to look at this cost management piece. There are many others in the kitchen, and it really is with your sort of eyes wide open, taking a look at what's best to buy in and what's best to be made on site, because ultimately, with a simple sausage roll like this, you can add different flavors, change some of the ingredients to the seasons, always sort of developing new flavors for your residents, giving them the best experience. Another great example when looking at cost management is to maximize that home cooked, homemade feel. Not necessarily do you have to just cook everything from scratch. Now this is really helpful if we're looking at desserts, and a solution today is like this great carte d'or brulee mix. So instead of the traditional labor intensive, separating your egg yolk, sugar, boiling milk, cream, having to cook it low and slow in the oven, again, maybe using a lot more energy than you need to. This is a great little trick, great little solution that is a food service specific product, giving you amazing consistency, great results, quick, easy and efficient to make in the kitchen. Not only just saving you on expenditure for cost of ingredients, but it saves you time and frees you up to have the ability to look at other such potential savings that you've got in your kitchen environment.
Thanks, Rob. Who doesn't love a sausage roll? So what I want to talk to you now about is stock and waste management. So we're going to look at the 4 Ps. We're going to look at plate, we're going to look at preparation, production, and perished. Firstly though, in the UK, we have over 1 million tonnes of food waste each year, and 75% of that can actually be avoided. That's over £3 billion in cost, and that's over 1 billion meals per year as well. What I want to do, I want to introduce you to our 4 Ps. Plate waste, prep waste, production waste, and perish waste. Firstly then, if we look at plate waste, so this is food then that after it's been plated, there's nowhere else for it to go afterwards, so it needs to go into the bin. So from that, what are we doing to ensure that we minimise those? So are we looking at portion control? So the British Dietetic Association, they have portion guidelines. We need to make sure that we're not overphasing the residents. So make sure that we're compliant with that. Then, as we look at preparation waste, I thought the best thing to look to do would be look to demonstrate that with you and some really good hints and tips from Rob in the kitchen. Over to you, Rob.
So when in the kitchen, traditionally, there will always be waste products if cooking from scratch, especially when we're talking about, fruit, vegetables, etc. This just has to be, if you really want to, you can have a bit of a step change in your mindset about how you can utilise some of your traditional prep waste and incorporate it in other dishes. Now there are a raft of solutions for this. A real quick and easy one is your broccoli. Traditionally, you would just prep your broccoli down, cook your florets, and then the rest, the stalk, etc., might be confined to the bin. Hence, quite a bit of wastage. Now the stalks, you don't need to do that, and quick and quick and easy. If you just give them a bit of a trim, what you'll do is you'll start to see in the core just a nice like green core in there, and that's actually really tender, really quite delicious, and really good in stir fries, good just roasted off through the oven. So instead of throwing all this away, you can use it. Another example could be just your cauliflower leaves. Again, traditionally you'll just prep your cauliflower, all the leaves and the trimmings will go in the bin. The leaves are fantastic in curries, blanched off, incorporate them into your cauliflower cheese. So effectively, not only are you increasing the volume that you're able to cook, and you're just minimizing wastage all the time. Just don't forget that food is precious, and in this sector it's imperative that we're really focusing on reducing all food preparation as much as possible.
Now we're going to talk about our third P, production waste. So this is food then that doesn't even make it to the plate, where we've just made too much. So are we looking at things like made to order? So throughout the day we have breakfast, we have lunch, we have dinner and everything in between. So are we making sure we have measures in place that we can look to do made to order food? Are we also then understanding our residents? So the likes, the dislikes. Are we looking at portion control guidelines as well? And if we are taking and doing all of these things, then that is actually going to lead to us using less products, less wastage, and actually less labour time in order to do these as well. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to move on to our fourth P, and we're going to go over to Rob for perished.
So now we're going to look at the fourth P, which is perishable goods in the kitchen. Traditionally really difficult to sort of manage, but when we mean perishable, what we're actually talking about is food that might be perceived to be like past its peak, not gone off, not completely spoiled, but food that either might not be used in the kitchen, might have fallen out of a menu cycle. It's just to make sure that you're getting the most out of the products you've actually bought and turning them into something you can actually use. Fruits and vegetables are fresh fruit and vegetables. A great example of this. Fruits make amazing compotes, can be turned into smoothies. You could, make a compote, prolong the shelf life even longer if you might not use it by storing them in the freezer. It's just about really making sure that this, highly valuable food items are turned into products that you are going to use. You can utilize the freezer space. You can turn them into delicious accompaniments for your menu cycle. Chutneys and relishes, anything with high sugar, high acid levels will just naturally prolong that, prolong the shelf life. So it's just making sure that every day, every week, when you're working in the kitchen, you're constantly, it's at the top of your mind, how can I get the best out of the product, prolong its shelf life, does it need to go in the freezer, and how can I use it again? It just needs to be top of the agenda to really make sure that you are getting the most out of your cost management.
Thank you very much for attending our cost management workshop. I hope you find it really useful. Perhaps not everything might be right for you, but certainly there'll be little things that you can introduce that will make a big difference. What we've also done, because we're not just a food service provider, is we have produced a plethora of assets for you. We talked around seasonality, so we have the seasonal calendar for you around fresh produce, portion control through the BDA, our fantastic 3-week care menu with recipes, and many more. For those of you that attended our workshop, you will receive all these assets via email, or indeed please feel free to go to our website. So thanks again for attending. These cost challenges are not going away, and we're here to work with you and create solutions. So if you want to get hold of either your account manager, Rob, or myself, we're here to work with you. Thanks again.